Hi, hello, and welcome. I am definitely not Vlad, and today I'm going to be yapping about these changes that the Good News Raccoon Kaivax has brought to us. Now, we have a lot of changes to a lot of the dungeons. These are amazing, honestly. Are they justified, though? Let me know what you think by the end of this video. There are some of these that are super big nerfs. My opinion is from someone who's doing 6s on day 3 and is trying to farm up gear, so I haven't done some of the more difficult stuff. I've done 7s on a DPS. I've done 6s as a healer. So mostly my perspective is coming from a healer sort of point of view. So let me know what you guys think about these changes. First things first, 10% damage and health reduction to all enemies across Mythic and Mythic Plus. That is kind of insane. That is a big nerf in and of itself. First dungeon, Operation Floodgate. So we have reduced the speed of the waves created by Awaken the Swamp by 25% and the movement force applied reduced by 17%. The second part means that they will move you less when they do actually impact you, and the speed is obviously they just move 25% slower. That is a big speed reduction. This is going to make the heal check for this easier, in my opinion, because you will not have as many people get hit by these. And also it'll make it easier to just avoid that extra damage in general. And it'll give you more uptime on healing as a healer and more uptime as DPS as a caster, because you'll be able to more quickly figure out where those things are going and position appropriately so you can start casting and all that shit again. So this, I think, is an amazing change. That boss does more, it feels like it does way more damage than any other boss in the dungeon, and I'm definitely happy that this change has been made. Darkfuse Shredder pilots are no longer able to melee. This seems like a bit of a bug fix. Kinetic Explosive Gel now has a permanent 12-second duration. This is because I believe DKs have a way to reduce the duration of negative magic effects, so they would have less time to actually position correctly to take care of bombs. So it's now been set to a permanent 12, like it's always going to be 12 seconds no matter what your talents are or anything like that. So this is very welcome. So we increased the cooldown of surprise inspection by Darkfuse inspectors by 2 seconds more. So the cooldown is higher. Jeez, that was a weird way to say the sentence. But anyway, this is welcome. I still think they're a bit annoying. The way you could reduce how annoying these guys are is by having your range actually just get into melee, and that way they don't teleport 700 miles away. So this is a welcome change. They're not going to be as annoying, and there's not going to be as much stuff to avoid. So yeah, that's just a nice change. Not sure if it was necessary, but it's less annoying now, so that's nice. Reduce the distance of bubble burp targeting to 60 yards was 100. So the reason I think they did this was if somebody dies on bubbles, releases, and on the way down this gets cast, they will get the dot. And by the time they reach a healer to heal them, they might just be dead. So I'm imagining like hunters that don't have exhilaration up are just going to die by the time they get to a healer with this bubble burp going off if they were releasing to try to get back. So this is a welcome change. Reduce the physical damage portion of Sludge Claws by 13%. This reads like a 13% nerf to Sludge Claws, but I think it isn't. I think it's less than 13% overall damage because the damage is split between nature damage and physical damage. So this is a less than 13% nerf to the Tank Buster, which is welcome. Now we have increased the cast time of Mudslide to 3.5 seconds, which means that the big sort of line thing attack that everyone has to move out of to the left usually is going to cast for longer, giving you more time, everyone more time to get out of that frontal, which is a nice change. Welcome change for all the dad gamers in their 40s that don't have the reaction time that they used to back in the day. Now, reduce the physical damage of Thunder Punch by 15%. Again, this reads like the same thing, a nerf of 15%. It isn't 50%, it is less than that because there is a nature damage portion of this attack as well. So this is just a nice little change, a nice little nerf, small nerf for tanks to be able to survive Thunder Punch a little bit easier. Reduced the damage of Turbo Bolt by 30%. I don't know who casts Turbo Bolt, but I'm very happy that Turbo Bolt is now hitting for 30% less. Any sort of bolt abilities that are getting spammed in the War Within, any nerf to those is always very welcome because they're obnoxious to deal with because CC doesn't stop casts anymore, but that is another matter entirely. Cinderbrew Meadery. Rowdy Patron's Rowdy Yell, damage reduced by 33%. This will make healing AoE damage in the first few pulls, or first pull if you're going big boy mode and pulling everything of the Cinderbrew Meadery that much more handleable, more easily handleable. That you get what I'm trying to say. It's going to be easier to heal this and survive this, I guess, as a DPS and tank. Ipa's Spouting Stout damage reduced by 33%. That means that I think this is the damage that happens while he's casting the swirlies. So while you're forced to move as a healer, the heal check is going to be easier, which is very, very welcome. Ipa's Brew Drop health reduced by 18% and movement speed reduced by 14%. This is massive. That was actually a big pug killer. Handling these little brew drops that go to the boss and heal him, or actually rather give him a big absorb shield, was really, really difficult. Making them move slower is actually kind of a bigger help than this 18% health. They're both amazing, don't get me wrong, and I love both of these. I still think it's going to get more changes. I still think this is going to be difficult for people to deal with, for pugs, or not pugs, sorry, uncoordinated groups. There's a difference between pugs and uncoordinated groups. Pugs can do like 15s and shit, so, you know, maybe it's not a pug issue, maybe it's an unorganized group issue. Moving on. Darkflame Cleft, Old Vaxbeard's rider melee damage reduced by 42%. I think this is a nerf to the first boss, basically doing less damage. Not sure how to really figure this out. Rider melee damage. Maybe there's 2 instances of damage being done by that boss to the tank. So this just reduces the damage being done by the rider, which is welcome. So it's basically a tank survivability buff, which is nice on the first boss. I don't think that was the issue on that boss, so I don't know how impactful this change is. People that understand this better, please do comment and let me know if I'm understanding this correctly. Wandering Candle's Surging Flame is now removed upon Wandering Candle's death. So the dot that the Wandering Candle does goes away when you kill the Wandering Candle. I think this is a precedent setter. Please do correct me if I'm wrong, but most, if not all enemies, if they put a dot on you and they die, that dot stays there and they don't care. So this would be very welcome on a lot of different bosses and enemies in dungeons and raids and whatever. So if this could happen a bit more, I'd be quite happy with that. Moving on to the Motherlode. Crawler Mines health reduced by 30% and speed reduced by 29%. So it's going to be easier to kill the Crawler Mines before the last boss. And it's also going to be easier to just get away from them, because those things were hustling. You needed to pop like a movement speed ability or something to get away from those things before this nerf. So that is very, very welcome. Off-duty laborers throw wrench damage reduced by 66%. I don't know how impactful this is because I didn't notice this damage before. This might make some new pathing options available. I'm not sure where these mobs are. I've only done the Motherlode a couple of times, so I really don't know. One of those times was as a red paladin, so I really didn't even give a shit what was happening. I was just kind of punching the keyboard and doing ridiculous damage. Coin-operated crowd pummeler's foot bomb, blazing azurites increased to subsequent timed explosions reduced by 40%. What a mouthful. Oh, like they're saying it's hard to say. Okay. That was okay. Yeah, what a mouthful. I don't even know what this means. I don't really know how the mechanic works. Can someone please in the comments explain what this means? I'm assuming that the effect from hitting it with a football, subsequent ones are reduced by 40%. But what is the effect? I don't even know. I just know that there's a debuff that you get for on the boss when you shoot or kick the bomb into it. Let me know what this means, guys. I really don't know. Azurite Extractor's Rapid Extraction group-wide damage reduced by 25%. And Azurite Extractor's Rapid Extraction missile damage reduced by 25%. This is a welcome nerf because those guys were really rough to survive, even on like the lower keys that I was doing. Healing those, basically you have to move away from everything. You can't reach anything, and healing that gets a little bit difficult because you're forced to move and you're also forced to get out of melee range as a Mistweaver, which I hate, but it makes it quite difficult to heal. So I'm a big fan of this change. And the Gatling gun on the last boss, damage reduced by 50%. I don't know how big of a change this is. I think it's going to help people who are just kind of getting clipped a little bit by the end of it, or like during transition if they're moving a little, like turning a little bit slower or something. I don't think this means like, oh, now I can stand in it. I think you still need to run like hell when that happens. So a bit of a weird change. Let me know what you guys think about it. Mechagon Workshop changes. The squirrels' health reduced by 93% and they can now be attacked. I think this means that they're just going to get cleaved down and killed by AoE, or maybe they'll get prioritized. This might be a buff to range DPS and a buff to survivability, because there's instances where squirrels will basically come into the, what are they called? The shield generators, and they will force you to move out of the shield generators, and then you'll be standing in the AoEs that the other mobs do. So this might be a bigger change than just, oh no, I have to move away from the squirrels. It might let you do some pulls that you otherwise couldn't because you had to move out of generators. So that's something to think about. I don't think it's a huge change, but it's definitely welcome, because if they're now with this 93% health nerf, if they're now in a killable range, like let's say they have, I don't know, 500,000 HP or 1,000,000 HP, that is killable with a couple of like divine storms or whatever. So you can definitely, if it's in that range, you could definitely kill these now, which will make moving less of a pain in the ass for casters, which I love. Machinist's Garden's Hidden Flame Cannon now has a precast visual. I've seen it, and that's what made me go, wait, is there a patch note I need to read? But yeah, it's very nice. It's kind of difficult to spot where exactly those guys are going. So this is a nice change, just a quality of life improvement. And now Priory of the Sacred Flame, what everyone thinks is, I believe everyone thinks this is the hardest dungeon, and I do agree. I really had a hard time with this. So let's see, Captain Dalecry's health reduced by 11%. Okay. Captain Dalecry's pierce armor damage over time bleed reduced by 25%. So this is like a tank buster reduction. Very, very welcome change. Lots of damage goes through from that. I believe this on Tyrannical, this is going to be a godsend. So that is very nice. Captain Dalecry's Savage Mauling and Tainer Dulmal's Emberstorm now have a 5-second shared cooldown, was 3 seconds. I think this is meant to get it set up where you won't have an overlap of these two, because you now have two more seconds to break Mauling on someone before the Emberstorm starts. And you also have 5 seconds after the Emberstorm starts before somebody starts getting mauled, which means the Emberstorm is probably going to be near completion at that point. So that's, or done already. I don't know how long the Emberstorm lasts. So this is a welcome change. I would love more changes like this in general to prevent some overlaps in boss mechanics when there's multiple bosses, which is really nice. Another change, which I think is really, really big, Captain Dalecry's Savage Mauling now ignores targets that have been hit by it within the last 35 seconds if there are other available targets. So if people have died already and he can only hit you with it, he's going to hit you with it. But otherwise, he's going to just ignore you and hit someone else, which is amazing bad luck protection. And I think this will enable people to be like, okay, I'm going to wait until he mauls me or someone else, and then I'm going to blow my cooldowns because I know he's not going to maul me after that. It also lets you get away with, not having to use another defensive when you get hit by it. So you'll have basically 35, give or take a few seconds, or give a few seconds more of basically relief where you don't have to use anything to defend yourself with. This is welcome for people who have very short defensive cooldowns, minor defensive cooldowns like Fade on Priest and Flash healing themselves or whatnot, but you usually can't really predict that going on you. I think it just is an instant cast. Either way, this is a welcome change. I believe this should be applied to a bunch of other mechanics in the game, because if you get targeted by something over and over and over again as certain specs, you basically lose all of your throughput, be it healing, be it DPS. So this being applied to other abilities in the game that basically prevent you from doing things, that would be amazing. I would love to see more of that from Blizzard. And we're looking at a lot of health reductions here across the board from all the mini bosses, and lieutenants, I believe. This is perfect. I'm super happy about that, because this is just going to make the dungeon quicker to run, because these guys just last for way too long, and it's sometimes they just get to you in an awkward moment and you can't really pull anything with them to make the pull worth it. And sometimes they're just so dangerous that pulling something with them could be that very bad for your timer, because you're going to die and wipe. But yes, added effect mechanics there to Castigator's Shield, so it can be removed with snare removals. This will make it easier for people to move out of the Castigator shields. Priests can use Fade with the talent. It'll let them move out of it. Blessing of Freedom also helps now. Chi on monks, all of that good stuff. Not a massive change. I do believe it's relatively easy to get out of Castigator's shield. It slows you when he has wings, so it's not always an issue, but it can be an issue, so that's a welcome change. Now that, snare removals are not being ignored anymore. Anyway, there are two nice changes to the last boss of the Priory, which is the initial cooldown of 3 seconds was added to Holy Smite. So the first 3 seconds of the fight, she is not going to be spamming Holy Smite. You can actually position her as the tank, which is amazing. you probably want to get her to like the middle of the room or whatever. You don't have to get to her to be able to kick her to start to then reposition her. By that point, she might already be casting one of her uninterruptible abilities. So this is just very, very welcome to be able to position the boss as you see fit. She also clears her energy upon transitioning to phase 2. So when she goes upstairs, she does not have whatever random amount of energy she had before you got her to 50%. She has 0 energy. This will make the abilities she casts in phase 2 much more predictable. You can kind of plan, okay, so I have this much time before I need to do some big healing cooldown for the blinding light or whatever. You actually can predict what is going to happen once you get into phase 2. This is amazing, because even if you have very predictable damage on Priory Merprey, you're going to have a hard time being consistent about it, depending on who gets the thing that follows you around and you have to drop the beam, because that'll cause people to lose throughput on phase 1. So it can be a bit unpredictable as to how much damage you'll actually be able to do to Priory Merprey in phase 1. Now, I think this is an awesome change. There are a few other changes that came with this. Let me take a look really quick over here. Yeah, Darkflame Cleft. There's 2 other changes that are not nerfs. In fact, they're kind of buffs or changes. Let's put it that way. One is definitely a buff a buff to the dungeon. The first boss, you can't get behind a pillar and make him just not charge. It ignores line of sight. It's probably going to run into that pillar and hit the pillar, and you're going to be safe. I think, I can't really say if this is a nerf or a buff, right? Because it's gonna spawn the rocks. Those rocks will kill the little guys, like the adds, but also you'll have to deal with the rocks, whereas before you didn't. So this is like plus and a minus, right? You'll get rocks you have to dodge, but you'll also potentially kill some of the little guys. So this is tit for tat. And the Wandering Candle's Quenching Blast now has a 60-yard radius, which was 30, which means casters are not going to be just automatically safe from this. It's going to hit them no matter what, because there's nobody who can go past 60 yards, right, and still keep casting, from my understanding of the game. And now in Theater of Pain, I do believe this is meant to be a nerf to the boss, where there are some rough overlaps so that the timers have been changed. I don't know what these look like. This is just a slight announcement, so this is pretty cool. I'm quite happy with this being changed. I still think that the annoying part of this boss is the fact that it just does so the charges from the bulls or whatever are a huge pain in the ass and hard to avoid. So these changes might not actually be that big of an issue, but we'll see what the changes actually are to this. It might make it easier for the tank to position the boss during the second phase, so that might make it easier for people to also position in a way where they don't get hit by things if the tank positions to a safe zone. All right, well, that's pretty much all of the changes that I know of. If there's other ones that have been announced that aren't in here, please do let me know. There's some also minor bug fixes here, but that is from March 5, so that's already been covered pretty much everywhere. But these changes are brand new. These have happened an hour ago, so I'm quite happy about these changes. Let me know again, do you think these were deserved? And how do you like them? I like these. These are big nerfs, and it'll make it even easier to keep blasting. So yeah, anyway, have a good one, and I'll catch you in the next video.